Hi, and welcome to the Happy Progress Podcast. I'm Alex Harris, and today we're here with Sandy Vo. How you doing, Sandy?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here and have an amazing conversation with you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. To get started, does progress equal happiness to you?
I think that is a question that would depend on the type of lenses that you're looking through. Because what I found working with high achievers and being an ex high achiever myself is that when we're constantly chasing for progress and we always want to see progress, it can create a lot of friction and static in our field. And I can talk a little bit more about that from an energy level later on. I think that what equates to happiness is your ability to be present.
I love it. And it totally makes sense for me because, as we get older and we want all of these achievements, we tend to put a lot more pressure on ourselves. Oh, we have to do this by this age, or I have to check this off. And that's why I kind of created the podcast. It's like happy progress is about intentionally doing what makes you happy. Like,
Yes.
going through life and finding a career, yes, that's great if you can make more money, you can do all these things, but it probably is not going to necessarily bring you happiness. More than likely, it's going to bring you more stress when you work more. So I can totally relate to your answer, and I love to hear your perspective because you are a meditation and spiritual coach, spiritual teacher for high end performers. I love the topics that you talk about, helping high achievers understand what they need to be doing to live a prosperous life. So tell us a little bit about how you started as a spiritual teacher and how the type of people you help.
Yeah, it started as a very personal journey, of course. It started off in college for me when, we're all in that period of trying to figure out who we are. And, I went to college because I thought that it was the right thing to do. I was the first in my family. My parents are both immigrants from Vietnam. And I was the very first in my entire family to go to college. And, for me, I'm wearing that with a badge of honor. I want to make sure that as a big sister and as a daughter to immigrant parents that I'm really doing the best that I can and leading the way to make a change for my entire family. I truly felt like I had the whole weight of my family and their success on my shoulders. And so I went to college, I studied communications and marketing. And all while inside, there was always that voice that voice telling me that, I am meant to be doing something on my own, but I'm meant to be creating my own path. When I started going through college and experiencing a lot of stress, I was struggling with balancing my school work, and then I was working 3 different jobs, and I was also leading a few different organizations. I had a little taste of what it felt like to live a high achieving hustle lifestyle, and ultimately that came to a crash when eventually I completely burned out, and that path led me to meditation. I remember having this conversation with my school psychologist, and I finally got the courage to ask for help. And my school psychologist, I remember her just kind of like sitting in her chair with a clipboard on her legs, and she said, "Okay, well, I'm going to prescribe you some antidepressant medication." And it was just very quick. I just felt like it was this quick transaction. I'm in. She heard me. I didn't feel like she really heard me. And then I was out, and I was like, okay, no, thank you. That's not for me, respectfully. So that was just an intuitive voice that came through for me that eventually led me to my meditation teacher and an Ayurvedic practitioner. So for those of you who have never heard of Ayurveda, it stems from Eastern psychology, and it's been around it's the oldest mind body set science, and it's been around for thousands of years, at least 8,000 years. And Ayurveda stands for the science of life. And what Ayurveda does is it looks at your mind, body, spirit as one holistic piece. So whereas maybe conventional or modern day medicine tells you that, if you have a throat issue, you'll go specifically to a throat specialist to look at your throat. If you have anything wrong with your stomach, you'll go specifically to a GI specialist. And we see our bodies as separate pieces. But what was so great about Ayurveda is it saw me within the whole piece of me. So I sat down with the Ayurvedic practitioner for 4 hours, and he took the time to ask me what was going on in my life. What was my lifestyle like? How much sleep was I getting? What kinds of foods was I eating? How much alcohol was I drinking? And what types of supplements was I taking? Do I go outside often? And it was so thorough, and I felt so seen and understood. It kind of sparked the edge for me to start exploring more of what that path was going to look like. And he introduced me to my meditation teacher. And I remember sitting down in my very first meditation class, and it was just me and my teacher. And I just felt this wave of warmth and peace just flowing throughout my entire body. And if I could relate to what it feels like, it's strange to say, but it's that feeling of being inside your mom's stomach when you were a baby. It's that feeling of you are protected no matter what. You've got all the nourishment that you need, all the warmth, everything that you need is right in here. It's that same feeling. It's like a warm blanket wrapping around you. And I was like, this is what peace feels like. This is what fulfillment feels like. This is what life is supposed to be all about. So, I felt like that summer, a part of me had died so that I could be born again. And I realized that you are born to die, and then we die to be born. And in between that space is we learn how to live, right? We actually learn how to live. And then that sparked me on this journey of the spiritual path and being a student of life and constantly learning how to live and really just squeezing the juices out of this human experience.
I love it. That's really beautiful how you put that in perspective. I think as we get older, we start to see things differently in different ways. If I was, listening to this podcast when I was, 21 years old or something, come out of college, I'm like, how is meditation really, maybe I need to calm down or it's going to, change my life. And now I do it every day. I feel like I absolutely have to do it because I get so stuck in my head. I just need some time to basically be with myself and know that those thoughts are always going to be there no matter what. You just how you can kind of balance it in the right way. And, I don't really do any formal stuff aside from, maybe using an app like Headspace or, watching some dedicated YouTube videos overall. But I think it's kind of the practice. Why do you think that this type of meditation or internal self-care is so important for individuals for success?
That's such a great question. Yeah. And there's a lot of misconceptions around meditation. So we can talk about that later if you want. But when it comes to meditation and why it's so helpful for us, the outer worlds that we're experiencing, when I say outer world, I'm talking about money, relationships, all the names of people, even our bodies, anything in the outer world, houses that we have, investments that we have, portfolios that we have, anything in the outer world. When it comes to the outer world, it's a mirror of our inner world. And when we can organize the mind, which is what meditation does, it's a practice of re-engineering our minds. When we learn how to organize our minds, kind of just like this computer software right now, the way that you and I are able to have this conversation and for it to process, there's an organizational system that's being coded and happening super quickly so that we can have this conversation. And our minds work in a very similar way. And when you practice meditation, you're actually reorganizing your mind. You're reorganizing a lot of your unconscious and subconscious patterns that are heavy. It's a heavy force. It was Dr. Bruce Lipton. I love his work. And he says that the unconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. So think about it this way. On an everyday given basis, the majority of us were repeating the same exact actions and habits that we had from yesterday. And we don't even realize it because it's so subtle. And it's until we learn how to organize our minds, do we take what's in the unconscious part of our mind and we bring it into our present awareness, can we actually make a change? Can we actually see progress in our life? Does that make sense?
Definitely does to me. So tell me about some of the misconceptions that you have in meditation and how high achievers could apply some best practices and apply it to their life so they can see some of the benefits.
Yes. So I'll tell you some of my misconceptions about meditation. It's so funny because as I dug deeper into my roots, my background is Vietnamese, African American, and Indian. And I have more of an Eastern background. And as I dug deeper and deeper into my roots, it's just so present in my culture. But because I grew up in America and I was ashamed of, being so different, I just never cared to look into it until I started practicing this. But, I had always envisioned meditation to be a monk sitting inside of a cave because I remember, I grew up with my dad being Buddhist and my mom was Catholic. So I would go to temple and I would go to church. So I would have a very multifaceted view of life in general. And I would see monks, with their heads shaved, and they would be, sitting in a certain posture. And I thought that, meditation was only meant for those people, only meant for the people sitting in the caves, and that it wasn't for me. I'm not some holy, I'm not some holy being. It is separate of me. And I also thought that meditation was a vacation. It's shutting down the thoughts, it's silencing the mind so that you can just it's like you press some kind of button in your head and then all of your thoughts are erased and all you have is this complete quietness. I also thought that meditation was something that had to be gruesome and it was like long and it's only for masters, to practice. So those are some of my misconceptions about meditation. And the more that I started working with some of my high performing clients, some of the misconceptions that I heard from them is, that they're way too busy for it, that it's not important, in what they're doing in their life. It has no place. And what they found is that the busier that they are, the more that they need it, the more that they need the meditation. So those are some really popular, common misconceptions about meditation.
Absolutely. I definitely had those misconceptions. It felt like a lot of work. I had to really kind of fit it in. But when it became kind of part of my life, it created less expectations in my day. And also just helped me slow down in times of high stress. All of us in jobs or in this pandemic, we all have a lot of stress going on. But meditation helps you take a step back and say, oh, is this really how I want to approach my day or how I want to react to this particular solution or problem that I'm dealing with? So as you're rewiring your brain, a lot of the meditation practices that I've followed have all kind of been concrete in either visualization or breathing, right? So obviously there's not one right way to do it, but what would you recommend as a practical practice for someone who's just getting started with meditation?
Yeah, well, first, Alex, you hit the nail on the head because meditation there's not just one way to do it. There are many ways of climbing the tallest mountain in the world, right? Do you know what the tallest mountain in the world is? Is it Mount Everest?
I would guess it's Mount Everest.
Well, we can't know everything, but there's so many different ways to climb the tallest mountain is my point, right? And there's not one way that is correct more than the other. But what I have found sticking with the same form of meditation and evolving it over time is the mantra meditation. And this is what is, if you've heard of TM meditation or transcendental meditation, it's very similar. So a mantra meditation stems from Eastern roots, and the word mantra in itself isn't what we think about, in the way that maybe Westerners have created it out to be, where, a mantra is saying to yourself, I am beautiful, or my mantra is, live your best life, or, you only live once, YOLO, maybe sometimes people call those things as mantras, but the root of the word mantra is a Sanskrit word, and it stands for vehicle of the mind. So when we practice meditation, The reason why it's so challenging for so many of us is we have this monkey mind, and it constantly is bing, bing, bing in a million different places. So you sit down and meditate, and then suddenly you're thinking about what you're going to make for dinner tonight and what you're going to be eating for dinner. And then you think about, oh, like the emails that you have to answer. And then you're thinking about what your new podcast episode is going to be, or whatever it is, right? When the moment you sit down for meditation. And so what the mantra does is it helps the mind to be one pointed. It's almost like taking a laser light and putting it through a wall. Laser light, that one pointed attention is so powerful that you know those action movies that you probably that we've all watched. You take a laser light and you can make a hole in the wall. And that's how powerful our one pointed attention is. And what the mantra does is it helps your thoughts become more one pointed. And so without that, your thoughts are kind of like a flashlight where you can see all of your thoughts, but you can't necessarily direct it in a very focused space. So when we practice mantra meditation and we're focusing all of our attention on the mantra and the vibration of the mantra, we become a lot more one-pointed. And when you become more one-pointed, your distractions, they begin to dissipate. And then that one-pointed attention eventually leads you into a space of silence. And when you experience that space of silence, it's just you with yourself. And sometimes things might come up for you. It might be visions that you might have. It might be, messages that you hear from your inner voice, from your highest self, from guru, the divine, whoever it is that you want to believe in or call it. There's that inside voice that, we've all to some degree have had an experience with, right? And so that's what the mantra meditation allows you to do. So it's what I've been practicing for almost the past decade. And it's what I teach to a lot of high performers because it's so simple. And if they just focus their attention on this vibration, then their worries, their fears, their doubts, like all the things that they say in their head, it begins to dissipate. And one thing that it teaches them is that your thoughts are not a demand. It's not a command. It's not like there's a commander in your head that's like, you need to do this. You need to listen to this thought, right? On one given day, we are processing 80 to 90,000 thoughts. So you can't possibly listen to every single thought that's in your head because you'd be going like this, right? But for those of you guys can't see me, I'm just like moving my head around like a crazy person. But what happens is when you focus in on that meditation, you realize that mantra meditation, you realize that your thoughts are just your thoughts and you don't actually need to listen to them, and you can just watch them pass by just like you watch birds fly in the sky.
It's as I was researching you talk about these levels of awareness, I guess, and how you're able to reevaluate your thoughts, and then you start to uncover certain patterns, I guess maybe stubborn patterns. So how would someone use meditation to realize where not their flaws were, but where there's opportunities for improvement within yourself, and then use that as a way to gain these breakthroughs to actually grow?
Yeah, you asked really great questions, Alex. So what Alex is referring to is the 3 levels of awareness. So this is something that I talk a lot about in my school, Prosperous School of Self-Realization. So the 3 levels of awareness, or you can say consciousness, looks like this. We have the unconscious mind, which is often our past self. We have the conscious mind, which is our present self. And the mind that most people don't know about is the superconscious mind, which is beyond. It's our future self, it's our current self, it's our past self, it's all of it. It's within us and it's outside of us. It's a superconscious mind, or some might say 5D, right? It's the 5-dimensional realm. Whereas the conscious mind and the unconscious mind are the 3-dimensional realm often. So I'm just tying it all together for those of you who may have never heard it like this before. And so the reason why we are here on earth is to also uncover all that's in our unconscious mind. And it doesn't matter if you've been practicing meditation for a long time, if you are, a master on this earth. Everyone has a lot of unconscious work that they're here to do. And that's what we call our karma. And so when you begin to bring forth what is in the unconscious mind through the practice of meditation, when you become more aware of the things that were sitting in the back of your mind. Let me give you an example of what this work would look like, just using one of my clients. She's a physician's assistant, and she chose a career where she on one given day sees 25 patients, and within that day of seeing 25 patients, she has probably about 4 minutes or 6 minutes with each one of them. She has a very vibrant, bright personality, but the work that she's doing has kind of dulled her light and dulled her personality. And her drive to be a physician and to work really hard, she, after uncovering a lot of this unconscious work, she realized came from her parents and what her parents wanted for her. Her parents wanted her to go to school to be a doctor so that, she could be more successful. And to them, it was living a successful life because it's what they didn't get to do. And through uncovering a lot of this work, she realized that she wasn't truly living the life that she wanted. She was living the life that her parents wanted for her. And so when you start diving into the unconscious mind, it's so powerful what it starts pulling up for you, because you realize that what you've been living is your external programming. And that's what I call it external programming. It's when we are unconsciously living a life that's actually owned by the media. We're absorbing information from the media. If I watch a Disney movie when I was 7 years old and every single princess was Caucasian and had an hourglass body, as a colored woman, I'm going to think that I'm not good enough in the world, that I'm never going to be successful because I don't have an hourglass body and my skin is not light, right? And so you start realizing the way that this external programming is actually creating the reality that you're living. And so it becomes so fascinating to observe without judgment all that we have stored in there in our unconscious mind, and recognizing this is mine and this is not mine. This belongs somewhere else, right? So when you bring that unconscious, all the patterns and the stubbornness and some of the habits that we have not been able to break, when you bring it forth into the conscious mind, that's when you create that vehicle for transformation, because now, boom, you're aware of it. And self-awareness is key. So the moment that you're aware of what that is, maybe you've thought that you had to work hard your entire life to make more money, only to make a little bit of money. Or maybe you have a fear of success because your parents, didn't make as much money, and you internally don't want to make more money than them. We never know what those unconscious fears are. But when we start doing this work and we become more conscious of it, because we know that, we can now begin to change our belief systems around it. So now when you change your belief systems around it and you teach yourself a different thought, now your mind and your body is going to have a different experience. So now the part of you that felt very fearful in the past of success, of showing your light, the part of you that really doubted yourself, maybe you start rewiring that because you start to see yourself a lot more clearly. And because you're realizing, wait a second, that fear of success comes from my parents. It doesn't come from me. I get to create and rewrite a whole new story right now. Yeah. And that's really what you get to do, changing that belief. Yeah.
It kind of ties into the overall, the ego and the unconscious way that we kind of deal with things. I'm a big fan of the book, The Ego is the Enemy, and how we deal with unconsciously our perception of the world. So it's interesting to me how we can use our own internal processes to deal with the external world overall. It kind of ties into the aspect of Eckhart Tolle's, like the power of now, like living in the present, in the now, in this busy, crazy world. We have all these things going on with our families and our works and all this stuff, but we still internally want to essentially stay present and be one with yourself. Am I kind of saying it right? And do you have any kind of maybe advice or additional books or tools that users can use to apply this on a daily practice for themselves?
Yeah. I think you worded that perfectly. And it really goes back to everything that prosperity and living a prosperous life is all about. It's about bridging that gap between the outer world of success, of money, of wealth, of family, of relationships, with the inner world of wisdom, fulfillment, of your own spiritual growth. It's bridging that gap. And when you bridge that gap, that's when you live a prosperous life. So to answer your question, and actually even to take it to the next level now, we talked about the conscious mind. When you start doing more of this work and you become more present in the now, because in the now is the past and the future. And oftentimes we keep projecting all of our thoughts to the future, and we're anxious about what's going to happen or what hasn't happened yet. Or we are dwelling on the past and we're living in guilt, and we're living in either resentment, and that's creating friction in our field, that's static in our field, right? And when you can become more present in the now, it's what happens is the past and the future begins to merge. And when the past and the future begins to merge, you can actually see into the future a little bit more clearly. And now you're going beyond the mind. And that's why the power, the power of now, or just being in the present. And I shared with you in the beginning about presence is progress. That's more powerful than anything. I was sitting with my fiance, and we were just having a conversation, and it was like dark. We had candles around us, and I was like, wow, this is why people are so afraid of the present, because it goes so deep. It just goes so deep. When you really just sit there and you're in it, it goes so deep. And it goes so deep to the depths of your own power and your own brilliance. And I think that's what we're the most afraid of. I think it was Marianne Williamson that says that our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And that's what being in the present really, brings you back to experiencing. And in terms of a tool, my fiance, he's a music producer, and we've worked together for over a year and a half to develop this vibration, this frequency that would first cancel out some of the friction that's happening in the field. And it brings your mind into a one-pointed space. And it's also set at a certain frequency to help balance out your energy as well. So it's a really powerful tool that my clients use. And I have that as a free meditation that I can offer in the link if you would like. It helps you to go to sleep. It helps you to bring all of your thoughts into a present space if you want a tool.
Yeah, and we can find that at sandyvo.com. Is there a specific way to find out about that free meditation?
Yeah, you can go to sandyvo.com. It's actually right at the front. It's a prosperity meditation. You can hear the vibrational frequencies in the background of that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's sandyvo.com, SANDYVO.com. Go ahead and check that out. And if you want to get that link off the show notes for this podcast, you can visit the podcast website at happyprogress.com/sandyvo. Go ahead and check that out. I certainly am. I love a good meditation and a nice challenge. So tell us, are there other things that you think users would take away from this, or any other practical advice that you want to share as far as connecting our meditation or self-care practices, going forward and helping us grow overall?
Yeah. So especially if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone that is seeking growth and transformation, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll share 3 things that I think would really serve you on your journey, or that I've seen have served hundreds of people that I've worked with. One is feeling okay to slow down, right? I think that I always say slowing down is a new speeding up. Because when you slow down, I think we've all experienced that in 2020 when this pandemic hit. Everything changed. We started to reevaluate more of our lives, what made us happy, what didn't make us happy. So when you slow down, you actually create the space to be able to anchor deeper into some of these practices. And the second thing is, once you slow down and you create the space, meditation, having that practice, it actually doesn't have to be as complicated. The way that I teach meditation is 60 seconds. So if you can just still your mind for 60 seconds, and you're not even actively doing this, you're actually breathing, and that breathing, because your mind and your breath and your body are all connected, your breath is like the conduit for your mind and your body. So when you breathe, it just helps you to connect your mind and body. Your mind calms down, and for 60 seconds you feel like you're in this blissful, peaceful experience. And I do that on podcasts as well. So if you want to do it later, just let me know, and we can definitely do a quick 60-second meditation.
Go ahead. We can go ahead and close with that. As we get forward, was there something else you wanted to add?
I would say the third thing is to begin to practice self-care. And when I say self-care, I'm not talking about the fancy, manicure, pedicures and booking, the luxury trips to the spa. Self-care is being self-aware. So when you are aware that you're feeling anxious, how can you let your anxiety speak to you and ask it what it's asking for? What is it trying to tell you? When you're aware that you're feeling stressed, okay, well, what is the stress trying to tell you? What are you aware of in the moment? Because that's always going to change. So there's no rigid way about this. We're acknowledging that you're constantly growing. And so self-care is being self-aware. So if you just remember that all the time, you're just going to ask yourself, okay, what do I need right now? And you give it to yourself. How do I want to feel right now? And you align your entire day with that feeling. Because that feeling is the embodiment of your desires. That's you embodying, bringing that desire into your body.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you for your time. Let's go ahead and make sure that you check out the website and get that free meditation as well. And thank you for being on the show, Sandy. Let's continue to make happy progress.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to invite everyone listening to sit comfortably on the edge of your chair. And you can plant your feet on the ground, shoulder width apart, and bring your present awareness to the midpoint between your eyebrows. And you inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, allowing the mind and the body to slow down, inhaling through the nose. And just like a wave that drifts into the other wave in the ocean, exhale through the mouth. Now bring your full awareness to the heart space and focus your attention on what you desire to feel. And be fully present with that feeling. And you can open your eyes.